Hey everybody, hey. Happy Cinco de Mayo. Thanks for spending it here with us instead of drinking margaritas until you feel sick. I'm maybe going to do that later, I don't know. My name is Will Clegg, and I'm one of the co-creators of this show, Awkward Teenage Years. Thank you, Lauren. The name really says it all if you've never seen our show before. These are going to be true stories from some of New York's finest storytellers we have for you here in the front row. They all take place between the ages of 13 and 19. And so you're going to get all kinds of fun stuff like first kisses and first dates, maybe first crushes, also maybe first time doing drugs and drinking alcohol, all kinds of fun. But mostly, the stories are about coming of age. That's why we started this show, and that's why we continue to do it. So before I bring up our four amazing storytellers, who, by the way, are all first-timers on our show tonight, so we're really excited about that. I'm going to tell you a little story from my teenage years. And so, Lauren, if you would please throw my embarrassing photo. Yeah, there it is. So May is a really exciting time for me in my teenage years because, number one, it means school is going to be ending very soon, right? But also it's my birthday month, so I'm gonna turn some age later this month, and on May 29th. And this, what you're seeing here, is my 16th birthday. As you can see, I'm very excited. If you're wondering why, there are a lot of great things about being 16. I got my driver's license in North Carolina on my 16th birthday, and didn't have a car on my own, but I got to drive my mom's car to school that day. It's a big day. But what I was really excited about was that when I turned 16, I could go to the mall, to Claire's, and get my ear pierced. Yeah, I've been looking forward to this for a long time. My buddy Austin, who was like the coolest guy that I knew, he had two earrings, one in each ear. There were these big hoops that had little balls on the end, kind of like curved dumbbells. I just thought it was the coolest thing. I wanted to do that too. I didn't know if I could get both ears pierced. Like that might be like a little too cool, especially for my mom, who's like made it very clear that none of her kids, her male kids, would ever get their ears pierced. So I had to wait until school was out to do this because my high school, boys no longer wear earrings. So the day after, my friend Pat and I go to the South Park Mall in Charlotte, go to the Claire's. If you've never been to Claire's, it's for young women mostly. It's a lot of jewelry and like barrettes for your hair. Everything's silver and pink. And but I'm just there for I'm getting my ear pierced. I'm getting out of here. And we walk up to the counter, and I very confidently say, I'd like to get a piercing in my left earlobe. And the clerk is like, "Oh, you got to be 18 for that." Oh, I've been misinformed. I'm here, I'm 16. My buddy did it here. He got both his ears pierced. She's like, I don't know, not this Claire. So you got to be 18. You got to have a parent or guardian. You got to be 18. And so Pat and I conference real quick, and he's like, I can do it. I can appreciate it. And there's no rule that says I can't just buy an earring, right? So I purchased one silver stud. And we go back to Pat's house, and Pat, he lives in the basement of his mom's house. It's almost like an apartment separate from the rest of the house. We do whatever we want down there. So we get a couple ice cubes. I'm holding it on my ear to numb it, and meanwhile he's sterilizing a needle. He takes a sewing needle and holds a lighter to it, which just seems to make it dirty with black carbon. And then he wipes it off, and I've had the ice on my ear for all of 3 minutes, so it's probably good, right? And he's like, all right, we're doing it. And I grit my teeth, and he just pokes the needle right through my ear. And it burns, when he sticks it in there, but not that bad. Kind of just like getting a shot, at the doctor's office or something. And before I know it, the needle's through. It's like, all right, wait, that was it, right? He's like, well, now we put the stud, And when he takes the stud out, it looks very small and sore. But now when you're looking at next to the needle, it's 1,000 times as thick as the sewing needle. And so he's like, all right, it's going to be quick. You're not going to feel a thing. The worst part's over. no, this is the worst part. He sticks the stud in there and like he just won't even go at first. And I was like holding my earlobe, stretching out, jamming it through there. There's blood coming down. Like we're in the bathroom, so I can see what's happening in the mirror too, which is not a good thing. And it takes him like a solid minute to get it through. And then when he finally does, I hear this pop as it goes to the back of my ear, and then it's like success. I pierced my ear. It doesn't even hurt anymore. Like the adrenaline's going, and I just feel amazing. Now, it's still the middle of the day, so I go home and I sit down at my kitchen table. My mom's in the kitchen, preparing something for later for dinner, and I'm just sitting there grinning. I'm not even like reading anything. I'm just waiting. She looks. She's like, "What are you up to? What do you need something?" And then I see her see it. Like I don't know, a little glint of light. Catches off of the silver stud, and she gets so mad that she can't even speak. And this is like the second part of my plan, right? It's piss off my mom as much as possible. We butted heads my entire childhood, and in this little act of rebellion, I didn't even know that she could get this mad, that she couldn't talk. And she just storms out of the room, goes upstairs. She's yelling at my dad, who hasn't done anything wrong. Like he's not in support of this either. They both come back down. She still can't even talk to me. My dad's trying to calmly explain what a terrible decision this was. It's going to get infected. He's a physician too, so he's like, it's going to get infected. He will take care of it. And I showed him I bought all the stuff. He's cleaning it every night, and I'm going to take great care of it. And my mom didn't speak to me for like almost a week after that. And then when school came back in the fall, I had to take the earring out every morning, put it back in as soon as the school day was over. I did this for the rest of the 2 years of high school. And then when we graduated high school, I don't know if you all did this, but we all went to the beach for beach week right after graduation. It's like a preview of what college is going to be, right? And so everybody, drinks a bunch of, terrible beer. A lot of people get sick. And then I decide that one earring is actually not enough. I'm going to get not one more piercing, but 2 more piercings in my right ear. So, sorry, one here and then one here, actually. So 2 in the left. And I go when I'm drunk, and I'm not actually even 18 yet, because it's right before my birthday. This is Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, where there are no rules. And so I get 2 piercings here and here. And this time, because I'm at beach week, I don't take care of them. And of course, they both get infected. It's disgusting. And then I went off to college that fall. And I went to the Claire's, that I don't think it's here anymore, but there was a Claire's right around here by the 8th Street yellow stop on the subway. And I got a piercing up here, completed before. And that one got infected right away as well, because I'm not taking care of myself in college. One little bit. The one that never got infected was the one that Pat had in the basement of his house that day. And you can see I don't wear any earrings anymore because, I'm grown and I don't need to piss my mom off anymore. But, that's why I was so excited in this picture. I turned 16. So, all right. That's enough from me. You're all ready to get the show started for real? Yes? Okay. All right, so keeping the show moving, we've got our next storyteller for y'all. She is a writer and a storyteller from Queens. She's appeared on Risk and Story Collider, and she is also the co-host of a monthly storytelling open mic at the Pine Box Rock Shop, say that a few times fast, in Brooklyn, called Just One More Thing. Please welcome to the stage, Tracey Starin.
Thank you. So one of the big advantages of growing up in New York City is that by the time when I was growing up, this is not so much anymore, by the time you're 10, your parents let you just kind of walk to wherever you wanted to go. You could go play video games at the candy store, you could walk to your friends' houses, you could walk to the pizzeria, and then by the time you were in high school, the whole city was at your fingertips with public transportation. The disadvantage of this was that nobody's parents felt obligated to get them a car. So as my friends started to get their licenses in high school, it was a very big deal if anybody was able to get their hands on a car. So my friends and I were meeting one Saturday night to go out. We were meeting at the bus stop because that's what we usually did to go out. But big surprise, this one Saturday night, it was my friend Lisa and me and our friend Janet and Janet's older sister Debbie. Big surprise, Debbie was able to get her parents' car for the night. So we were going to the movies in style. And you would have thought that we were in an episode of Pimp My Ride. We were going in a Bentley instead of in a Toyota Corolla. And so we headed off to the movies, which was like a mile away. And we got a parking spot, which was in and of itself a miracle. No parking on Queens Boulevard, but we got one. We were going to see what would become a Kevin Bacon classic, He Said, She Said. So we get out of the car, and those beep clicky things that you used to lock your car, those didn't exist yet. This was 1990, and I believe that they were invented because of nights like this. So as we get out of the car, Debbie takes the key, and to lock the car back then you actually had to put the key in the lock, the door lock, and turn it. And as Debbie did that, the key broke off from the lock. And so Debbie shrieks, and Lisa and I laughed because we're jerks. But you think okay, no problem. Debbie can just go on her bag and get her cell phone and go through her contacts and call AAA or they're dead. 1990, none of those things have been invented yet. So Janet and Debbie go off in search of a payphone. For those of you who don't know what a payphone is, it was a communications device bolted to a pole, stuck in the cement. You fed quarters into it, and you picked up the filthiest plastic receiver you have ever seen in your life, attached with wire. You press buttons that everyone in the city has ever pressed ever and have never been cleaned ever. Sometimes, if you were lucky, it was in a booth, which was like a little tiny glass house with a door. And if you were lucky, you would find somebody peeing in there, sleeping in there, or if you hit the New York trifecta, having sex in there. And then you called somebody and you hoped that they were home because their phone was also tethered to their house. So, and their receiver was attached by a coiled cord to the phone that was tethered to the house. This all sounds ridiculous. It was all true, like 25 years ago. And the receivers were giant and plastic, like things that they used to use as murder weapons in movies. So they find the payphone, and they call, Janet and Debbie call their dad, and he is there in no time. And he calms them down, and he does that like dad magic where he's able to get the broken key right out of the lock. And so he doesn't want our night to be ruined. He takes his key to the car off of his keychain and gives it to Debbie, and he says, "Here, take my key, and you can still go to the movies." But before he gives it to Debbie, he goes to lock the car. And his key breaks off in the lock. So Debbie bursts into tears. She's hysterical. And Lisa and I burst into hysterics because we are still jerks. So their dad says, "Okay, well, now we have to call AAA because there's nothing else I can do. You girls should go off to the movies or order." I mean, Debbie had enough, and her nerves were shattered, and she was just going to wait with her dad and then go home with him. And the three of us went off to the movies. But at this point, we have missed Kevin Bacon. No more He Said, She Said. In fact, we missed everything. The only movie left that hadn't started yet was Silence of the Lambs. A movie I had absolutely no intention of seeing because I don't like horror movies. They can give it as many Oscars as they want to. It's a horror movie. I never before had seen a movie that made me need to take a shower after. I watched most of the movie through my fingers. I should have put my fingers in my ears instead of over my eyes, because then I wouldn't have to hear things like, put the lotion in the basket. A line which haunts me to this day because people think it's funny to say it for absolutely no reason. And it's one of those evocative things that instantly transplants you back to the horrors of that movie. So we left the movie, and now the only way to get home was to take the bus. If we had just done that to begin with, we could have avoided the whole way. Okay, thank you.
All right. Man, New York City payphones, huh? By the time I moved here in 1998, there was not a single working payphone left in the city. But your description of them still stood. They still served as urinals and places for impromptu sex, ashtrays, all kinds of stuff. I never found one that worked. Now, of course, they're all gone. One more time for Tracey. All right, keeping the show moving right along. Our next storyteller is a writer and an actress. She's appeared in television and film and several anthologies, and she is also a Moth Slam winner. And she's very excited to be making her debut with us here tonight on Awkward Teenage Years. Please welcome to the stage, Adrianne Frost.
Thank you. Right, okay. Hi. Thank you. I'm short. Okay. All right. So, hi. Oh, there she is. Good gravy. So I grew up, went to high school in southwestern Louisiana. All the woos. I just heard them all. And so I was, I like to call it uncool, which means that I was, like with my friends I was cool, kind of like the nerd thing. With my friends I was cool. I wore, ties and had an asymmetrical haircut and a spit curl. I had an earring up here, Jesus, in Lafayette, Louisiana, that's insane. All the other girls in school wore, everybody in school has big hair, parachute pants. They listened to Whitney Houston. I listened to Violent Femmes. They went to see fucking Footloose, which is probably the worst movie ever made in the history of movies. I was like Blue Velvet. I went with my friend to she was reviewing Footloose for the school newspaper, and when it was over, I ran up the aisle screaming, "This is the worst movie ever made!" And everybody's like, fucking Footloose. So I was a messed up, crazy, most of my high school, they were experiencing 90210, and mine was more like Euphoria. So mine was sex and drugs and alcohol and more drugs and more sex at the age of 16, 17. Because when you come from a house that is dysfunctional or abusive, what you tend to do, there's no agency for you. So what you're doing to unburden yourself is have a lot of sex and do a lot of drugs and do a lot of drinking and write very bad dark poetry. So, which I still have all of it. And there was a point later in life where I tried to type it all out on my typewriter, so I would have it to sell as a book. Anyway, So here I am going from relationship to relationship from the age of 13, 14. But also, there's nothing else to do in Southwest Louisiana but fucking drink. So I met a boy, again, named Christian, which tells you that this is not going to work, because he went to St. Thomas More Catholic High School. He wore polos. I wore, ripped fishnet tights. His parents loved the fact that we were together, and I took his virginity, which is like introducing him to chocolate, because what is this wonder? It was the what? And I consider my vagina as like Reese's peanut butter cup. It's like, whoa. Unfortunately though, like with Reese's, they try to package it different ways so you'll still love it. And that's what I was doing. So it was like, I'm a Christmas tree, I'm a pumpkin, I'm an Easter egg. And what I really wanted to be was Ferrero Rocher, which comes in a nice wrapper, and you take it home and you love it forever. So Chris and I were madly in love. We were having sex all the time in his Toyota, in my bed, everywhere, and we wrote letters back and forth to each other as Louis and Gabrielle from Interview with the Vampire on parched wax paper with a wax seal and script. Like, that was so romantic. So we were doing that, and everything was awesome. And then he met someone else who, after 6 months, and after 6 months with high school love, you're going to get married. I mean, you've been together 6 months. That's dog years. So he met this girl who was, I thought, everything I wasn't. Tall, beautiful, blue-eyed, went to a Catholic school, smoked menthols. I wrote a poem that starts, she smokes menthols, cool, blue like her eyes. I still have that fucking poem. But anyway, so he starts seeing her, he starts jerking me around, he's seeing both of us. The wonders of sex for him, that I'm thinking, what am I going to do without a man? I have to have one. I value myself through a boy. I missed him, I missed everything, and then I missed my period. Well, shit. And my mother took me to the gynecologist. I got a pregnancy test. They had to call you on the phone a few days later. It wasn't like, stick it up your nose and you have COVID. It wasn't like that. And they called me, and they said, it's inconclusive. We come back and take another one. So I went back and took another one, and then they called me. I remember the call because I had friends over, and my phone rang, and I ran in, and they said, you're pregnant. And I put my hand on my dresser, and I just started to cry, and I thought, well, this will keep him in my life, won't it? And so his parents and my parents decided that I would terminate the pregnancy. So we drove to Baton Rouge, which is an hour away. And we went to a doctor's office. Chris was there. My parents were following us. I don't know why. Like, they thought we were going to go off to New Orleans and go to Bourbon Street and get drunk instead and hope it would fall out. But so we got to the doctor's office, and I went into the exam room, and I'm crying and nervous. And the nurse goes, well, then you shouldn't have gotten yourself into this situation. Oh, no. And I said, you were wonderful in Cuckoo's Nest. And I left out the back door. And I ran away, and my parents found me a couple blocks later. We decided to go to Delta Women's Clinic instead. And so a week later, we went back to Delta Women's Clinic, which they more or less do this all the time, so they're not assholes. And they were the doctor had he was very gentle, he had a sense of humor. Not like, knock, who's there, not your baby. But he was very nice and warm about it. And it's very much like getting the suction in your mouth when you go to the dentist, but not in your mouth. And they didn't give me anesthetic because I had taken aspirin earlier in the morning. And so it was an amazing situation. So as we're driving back in the Toyota across the Chavalai Basin, Chris says, do you know what's the best thing about this? And I thought, no. Is it the not anesthetic abortion that I had, or that you're jerking me around with Shalimont and I don't care for on YouTube? Fuck you. And or is it, what is it that you're going to leave me? And he said that you haven't complained about my driving this entire time. And I thought, I still want him. I still want to be with him because that's how I valued myself. That's who I wanted to be. I kept my head down. I dressed all in black. I wore ties. I went to Salvation Army. Nobody was going to love me unless I could give a mean hand job. And I still wanted to be with this guy because that's all I had. So now it's 36 years later. I'm 53. I'm friends with Chris on Facebook. He's getting his second divorce. And if I could go back in time and tell that girl who had to skip 17, I had to skip 17, I skipped all of my teenage years. Keep your head up because you're everything. You're everything. You mean more than anything to the world. And there's something up there for you. And keep wearing black because it's fucking slimming as fuck. Thank you.
Thanks for sharing that, Adrianne. I feel like it's extra poignant this week. Obviously, it's been a hard week for all of us who value women as whole human beings. You don't have to share those stories because I know they're probably hard to talk about, but thank you so much for sharing.
You're welcome.
One more time for Adrianne. All right, we're getting close to the end of the show here. I do have one more storyteller to bring up, but before we do that, I'm going to do a little song and dance about our show. So, Lauren, if you would put up my special slide. We are all over social media if you want to get in touch with us. We are most active on the Instagram. We're at Awkward Teenage Years there. We're also on Facebook at Awkward Teenage Years. We're on Twitter, sort of. We have a weird name there. This is why I made this slide, really, just, Awk Teen Years. I don't know, is Twitter still going to be a thing after Elon Musk buys it? Maybe not. I mean, our 10 followers would be devastated. But yeah, if you really want to get in touch with us, I would say Instagram's the place. Or you can email us at awkwardteenageyears@gmail.com. That's maybe the best thing to do. And then if you are inspired watching this show tonight and think, I have a great story about my teenage years, I'm sure that you do. We all do. And we would invite you to email us. Tell us about that story, and maybe we can get you on this show. We are a monthly show, the first Thursday of every month here under St. Mark's. And so, if you're a seasoned storyteller or you've never told a story on stage before, either way, get in touch. We'd love to have you on the show sometime. Okay, song and dance is over. Our final storyteller for this evening, he has been the co-director of Theater Moves for 30 years, which is a not-for-profit that works with public school students. He's appeared on the Story Collider. He's a Grand Slam champion at the Moth, very impressive. And he's done, all the shows in New York City at this point, I think. We're really excited to have him here with us tonight. Please welcome to the stage Neil Intraub.
So I wasn't the most confident kid. Doubts always seemed to be bubbling up from the surface, just always there. It's like I just didn't believe in myself. And when I was 17, my friends and I were looking for summer jobs, and Mark and Bruce, they applied at the post office, and I applied at Geico Insurance Company that had an office about a mile or so from my house. Now, they heard very quickly, they got the job, they were making about $10 an hour, which back then was actually pretty good, and their main job was weighing packages and getting them ready for delivery. And for some reason, I was intrigued by this, that they'd use special brown paper and very secure postal tape. And then Mark told me that they would also have these secret rubber band battles with some of the veteran postal employees. And it just sounded like so much fun. And I was jealous. I couldn't wait for my fun summer Geico job. And about a week later, I get a letter from Geico, and I rip it open. Dear Neil Intraub, thank you so much for applying for the summer position. After careful consideration, we've concluded that you're not psychologically stable enough to hold a position at our company. Best of luck in all future endeavors. Signed, the management team. And I was numb. I really didn't know what to make of this. So I called Mark right away. He goes, fuck them. Who the fuck do they think they are? My God, you should sue them. And I'm thinking, yeah. Then I'm thinking about the application. And the questions were so simple. How old are you? Are you a U.S. citizen? I'm starting to rack my brains thinking, how did I come across as psychologically unstable? I mean, there wasn't even a, why do you want to work in Geico essay? And I'm thinking, maybe it was like psychological profiling through handwriting analysis. My handwriting was pretty messy, but geez. The more I thought about this, the more furious I became. But deep down, there was this little flicker of doubt that maybe Geico knows something. And maybe they know I would not know how to collate forms. Or if you tossed me into the mailroom, I'd be completely baffled. This did not do wonders for my confidence. After this, simple things seemed way beyond my grasp. I was actually unraveling a little bit, and I called Mark, who is now a 1-week grizzled veteran at the post office. And I started peppering him with questions about how he weighed packages. Like maybe I thought I really didn't know how to do it. And he was sort of like a professor. It's like, well, you take the little brass weights on the scale and you move them over until the scale is balanced. And I was in awe. It was like he was explaining the theory of relativity to me. But I was like, oh yeah, no, I get it. Yeah. And I go, but how do you know how much postage to apply? He says, well, there's a chart. It's really straightforward. You could do it. And in my mind, I'm thinking, oh, could I? Could I really? I didn't even work at the post office, and I was very concerned about how to weigh packages correctly. New things always filled me with doubt. The night before first grade, I was weeping quietly in my bedroom because I didn't want to wake anybody. But I was very concerned because I was using the school bus for the first time the next day. I didn't really know what the system was. I just remembered something about a bus pass. So as I'm weeping, my sister Helene was so sweet. She heard me. She came in. She's like, what's the matter? So I'm going to use the bus. I don't know how. And she said, all right, here's what's going to happen. Tomorrow morning, Mom is going to walk you to the corner with the other kids. She's going to wait with you till the bus comes. There's going to be a really nice bus lady on the bus. Maybe you'll sing songs. Maybe you won't. But you will get to school and somebody really nice will walk you to your classroom so you don't have to worry. Now, the fact that she talked to me about it made me feel better, but quite honestly, it still sounded a little bit complicated. The one time something new didn't scare me, it came back and bit me on the ass and taught me that new things can be surprising in very bad ways. I was 2.5 years old. This is more like an emotional memory, like a familial memory. It's like I sort of remember it, and it was like family lore. 2.5, my parents wanted to install one of those accordion gates in my doorway so I wouldn't toddle out into the hall and fall down the steps. And they were making such a tremendous fuss about how much fun this was going to be. This gate was going to be so much fun. So my mother and my sister were in the hallway with my dad, who was like drilling into my door frame, beginning to install the gate. And there was just such an air of excitement because something new was happening. I was in my room watching everything wide-eyed. And my sister spontaneously started dancing in the hallway, sort of pirouetting. And I started dancing in my room. And my mother, she smiled and she pointed at me. And what I remember vividly is her red lipstick. And her red lipstick said, oh, look at you with your new gate. I didn't even really know what a gate was. I just knew that everybody was excited, so I was excited. So my dad finished installing the gate, and then everybody left. And I was stuck, alone, holding onto the gate like I was in prison. It's like, where'd everybody go? Where's the fun? What happened to the fun? New things suck. So, to put things in perspective, my father was a brilliant engineer who invented an altimeter that could measure the distance, like as planes are landing, to within fractions of an inch. My mother, she led a whole department at the Internal Revenue Service. My sister was well on her way towards a PhD in psychology. And at 17, I wasn't psychologically stable enough to hold down a menial summer job at Geico Insurance Company. I couldn't handle it. I didn't know what I was going to do. My parents had had enough. They said, all right, look, we're going to drive over to Geico. We're going to have a little talk with the management team. And I call my friend Mark, because, I don't think they should go. There's something in his voice. I said, why? He said, well, I sent you the rejection letter. I said, what? He said, well, I actually applied at Geico a week before you did. I saw some blank stationery on this desk. It had Geico's logo. I went home, I typed it up, and I sent it to you. I said, why would you do that? He said, well, I thought it would be funny. Because I didn't think you'd take it seriously. I thought about this for years. About how quickly and completely I was taken in. I was always just one rejection letter away from being completely devoured by doubt. And this taught me that I had to believe in myself or I would be screwed. Now, Mark, he thought this was hilariously funny. And I guess it was. Sort of. Thank you.
Oh, wow, what a turn at the end. Love it. Like a M. Night Shyamalan movie. One of the great things about hosting this show is I hear your stories and it gets the wheels turning for me for other, like I want to write something about when I worked at Starbucks for a summer. There's a lot there as a barista. All right, one more time for Neil, everybody. Great stuff. So that's our show, folks. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you for watching on the live stream. I don't usually do this, but I'm going to plug a different show right now because Grant and I, my co-creator and co-host here, are both appearing on the Story Collider in just a few short days on May 14th at Caveat, which is not even this theater. I don't know if I'm supposed to do that, but we're very excited because we've never been on that show before. We're both going to be on it together, which doesn't happen a lot. So if you're free, Saturday, May 14th, 4 p.m., weird time for a storytelling show, that's going to be happening. We are going to be back here on Thursday, June 2nd with a new cast and new stories. And we're very excited for that show as well. We'll be back in July and August, and I don't know, as long as they'll keep having us. So hope to see you again soon. Thank you so much for coming out. Enjoy your evening. I always forget to say thank you to Lauren, our amazing tech director, and to Brandon, our house manager for tonight. All right, good night for now.